Claudy is extra controversial because of the personnel that were involved within it. And I suppose the difficulty is that because the state has not come up to the mark on it either, it then has created a vacuum where people are then having to rationalise what could have happened for themselves. And the conclusions they're drawing may not necessarily be entirely what's happened, but the state, there's a huge onus on the state, in my view, to make right by David and other families and set the context as to why they took the decisions they took at that time, make account for it now, and where appropriate, also acknowledge and apologise to David and to others the wrong of those decisions, but the backdrop to what was going on. And let's always focus on one thing. It wasn't the state that bombed Claudy. It wasn't the Irish government, for that matter, that bombed Claudy. It was the Provisional IRA. And the focus needs to continue to be on the people who made that bomb happen on that day. But absolutely, those other agencies need to account for their involvement or non-involvement in the actual bringing to account of what happened.
John, first of all, I must say thank you for inviting me on the programme. I lost my brother in Claudy in 1972, 31st of July. Claudy is one of the controversial killings in the Troubles. As you know yourself, 1972 was one of the worst years in the Troubles. And there was a priest involved in it. The Northern Ireland office, they tried to hide the priest, and they communicated with the Roman Catholic Church, the Irish government, to try and hide him, put him somewhere away, safe. There's nobody's come forward and said what part they played in this. This is why, at the present minute, some of the Claudy families are heading down a legal route, John, to get answers to these questions. That is why Claudy is so controversial, because it involves the Roman Catholic Church, the Northern Ireland office, and Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness was invited to meet the Claudy families. He never, ever turned up for it. We will never give up. My father died, John, 4 years after losing his son. My mother passed away there 3 years ago, never getting answers to her son's death. I hope this day, I pray, that I'll be able to see the end of this and get the answers for some of the Claudy families. The questions, John, you know, would need to be answered. But I hope I live long enough, John, to get these answers. If I don't, I have another brother to take my place.
Kenny, I mean, you know a bit about the Claudy bomb, and could you really just, set the scene? I mean, you says that there was a couple of bombs. Kenny, would you just like to tell the live chat a little bit about it, please?
Well, I think to many people, Claudy would not otherwise be known, but for those bombs, it's a place that, and I say this with great respect, but if you blinked, you're through it. So it really was at that particular time. Obviously, there was Operation Motorman was on. There was a need for the movement of activity within Londonderry at that stage, and Claudy was said to be the diversionary tactic which was used. I mean, people have asked over the years, did the Provisional IRA intend to murder people that day, to take human life? And I suppose I always answer this from the point of view that if you plant bombs in the middle of town or city centres, I'm sorry, but you have little control over what the end product of that's going to be. And I think over the years we've had some weak national journalists who have intimated that the Provisional IRA never carried out incidences if they knew that civilians were going to be the end product of what had happened. That's not the case. We know that there was targeting of civilians that went on. Claudy, as David says, is extra controversial because of the personnel that were involved within it. And I suppose the difficulty is that because the state has not come up to the mark on it either, it then has created a vacuum where people are then having to rationalise what could have happened for themselves. And the conclusions they're drawing may not necessarily be entirely what's happened, but the state, there's a huge onus on the state, in my view, to make right by David and other families and set the context as to why they took the decisions they took at that time. Make account for it now, and where appropriate, also acknowledge and apologise to David and to others the wrong of those decisions, but the backdrop to what was going on. And let's always focus on one thing. It wasn't the state that bombed Claudy. It wasn't the Irish government, for that matter, that bombed Claudy. It was the Provisional IRA. And the focus needs to continue to be on the people who made that bomb happen on that day. But absolutely, those other agencies need to account for their involvement or non-involvement in the actual bringing to account of what happened.
Recently, we had the death of Martin McGuinness, and we've seen that several people attended his funeral. I mean, world leaders, past world leaders attended his funeral. And they're painting Martin McGuinness as being some kind of hero, some kind of peacemaker. So what do you think whenever you see Martin McGuinness being promoted as a peacemaker?
There's a programme made about Martin McGuinness on TG4. And you look at that programme, victims only got 4 to 5 minutes in that early programme to speak. Victims did not get any big part to play in that programme. Martin McGuinness definitely done some good things in his time, but he done a lot of evil things. As in 1972, you know yourself, John, he was pictured as a car bomber. You know what I mean? He said openly he joined the IRA in 1972. The question I would like to ask Martin McGuinness, what did he know about Claudy? And a lot of Claudy families on both sides of the community would like to ask that question too. Why did the IRA pick Claudy?
We had people of that day who were mainstream media journalists. Was it Peter Taylor? People like, is it Dara McIntyre? And amongst others. Again, there was another man there that came from, John Sweeney was another one. And, you know, John Sweeney recently said that Martin McGuinness was his hero. Peter Taylor, he said that he would have joined the IRA. And, you know, that guy McIntyre, what did he say? He said that he painted Martin McGuinness as being some type of folk hero, a Che Guevara type figure. And that's when Martin McGuinness was actually handing guns to young children. We can see the pictures, and another picture that you're talking about there, David, when you say that there was a picture of him putting a bomb in the boot of a car. This is wrong. I mean, this is the rewriting of history, which I'm sure that you know, it doesn't help mend or in some way help the likes of yourself whenever you still have all that pain of the loss of your family and what has happened since it. You're a victim of that bomb, and if there is anyone alive today that can be made accountable, I mean, what would you see as justice? Would it be an apology? Would it be someone going to jail, or would it be an acknowledgement? So, what would be your form of justice?
The way I look at it, John, is like this here. You're never going to get justice because the terrorists will always want 2 years in jail is like a slap in the back of the hand. The way I looked like to get justice would be for what the British government, the Irish government, the Northern Ireland office, what part they played in Claudy. What did they do to cover it up? The Roman Catholic Church, I have good faith from people that told me that when Claudy was bombed, there were young boys about 22 to 25 years of age, groomed by Father Chesney to do the bombing and stuff like that. They were about 30 people bombed Claudy. I know that for a fact. I have covered it. Getaway cars, stuff like that there, but that's what I'd like to see. What part they all played on it. You know what I mean? Come clean. After 50 years, come clean, John. That's the question I'd like to ask every one of them.